Hi, my name is Marisa. I am 31 years old from Austin, Texas. I have a 7-year-old daughter and I'm married to my high school sweetheart. I was diagnosed in 2017 with stage 3 synovial sarcoma. I got an upgrade to stage 4 in 2021. I really enjoy working out, spending time with my family, kind of living like a grandma lifestyle. That's kind of all the hobbies I enjoy. I noticed a bump on my left foot when I was actually a junior in high school. That would take us back to like 2010. And unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of symptoms. Like I said, a little bump was there. It was there for years. I went to podiatrists, they did x-rays. They're like, it's probably just a cyst. It's probably hitting on a nerve. That's the only time it actually hurt was when anything pressed upon it, like pretty hard though. But like I said, just small little bump. And that bump was stable, did not grow, did not move for almost 6 years. Um, then I got pregnant and the bump started to grow. Like it went from a dime to like a golf ball all while I was pregnant. I got to now at that point when it started growing, then it became more painful. I couldn't wear shoes because it was like right on the top of my foot. So I couldn't tie shoes. I could only wear like sandals. And then when I gave birth, a couple, like 5 weeks later, I had a surgery to remove what they told me was a ganglion cyst, something very benign. My podiatrist even told me directly to my face right before I went in for surgery that 99% it's nothing. We only send it for biopsy as a precaution, but you have nothing to worry about. A week later, my doctor calls me, the podiatrist, and it was kind of a foreboding call because he's like, I need to discuss your test results, but I need you to bring your husband and your mom with you. So I didn't ever think it was cancer, but I knew it wasn't good. So I did bring my mom with me. She's a nurse, so I thought if anything weird was going on, she could explain it to me in layman's terms. So I remember sitting exactly where I was sitting. We were the last patients of the day because he knew I'd be coming out of there bawling as I was. So I went back there and just very solemn look on his face. You really couldn't look at me directly. And he was like, I'm sorry to let you know, but you have cancer. And like everything went blank. The only thing I thought about was I have a 6 week old daughter at home. Am I going to be here for her first birthday? I don't know. Because when I hear cancer, I'm just like, death sentence. That's it. My life's over. And at that point, we didn't know. Like he had set everything up. Like we were going to do a CT to see if it had spread. But I heard cancer. I was like, that's it. I shut down. Like we were crying. My mom was crying. We just didn't know what that meant. And pretty much from that seat where I sat to when I left, that's like the dividing point in my life. It's like that's before cancer and that's after cancer. And no matter how normal I get, it'll never be the same. You can never get that innocence that, even if you were 5 or 10 years old, there's always that kind of like grim reaper on your shoulder, any pain or thing. You're like, is this cancer again? So my life will always be different because of that day. Yeah, I remember it very crystal clear, even though it was 7 years ago. At that point, we did a CT of the chest to make sure it hadn't spread. It hadn't at that point. So that was good. So all we had to worry about was my foot. Now, the problem is since I had an OOP surgery, they were going to do preventative chemo, but we had nothing to measure. So it was just like, we're going to do chemo to make sure we can flush everything out just in case any little particles are, in your body. But I was told that by my orthopedic surgeon. Like the first thing he said to me was like, you know, you're having an amputation, right? Like there's no if, ands, buts about it. Like we cannot save your foot. It's just too big. We won't get clear margins. This is your best chance of survival. And I was actually like surprisingly okay with that. I knew it was my best chance. And they honestly made chemo seem like horrific and they made the amputation seem super easy. They're like, you'll get back on your feet. You'll get, a brand new leg. You'll be doing all the same stuff that you would do normally, which they were true, but it took a while to get to that point. And it was just going to be 6 rounds. And then right smack dab in the middle of my treatment. So December of 2017, I had a below the knee amputation as well. I do remember like the day before, a lot of people go to the beach one last time so their toes can be in the sand and all that. But really, like I did like a little dance for like my little followers, my friends, like, it's going to be okay. I was very okay with it. Like, they really set me up thinking that it was going to be super easy, that I'd go back to a very normal life, which I did. But yeah, but it was okay. Like, I got to just, my daughter was with my brother-in-law, so I just kind of got to just kind of zen right before and just be like, this is going to be okay. This is going to give you a longer chance to live. I was just very okay with it. I thought if I could do the hard stuff now, I could reap the rewards later, which I did sort of. But yeah, I was okay with it. First 2 weeks, you have a bandage, you can't move. It did kind of suck for me, particularly because, like I said, it was right smack dab in the middle of treatment. So I couldn't get fitted for a leg until after I finished chemo, because to get fitted for a leg, you need to be, pretty much a stable weight. You can't be fluctuating around. So I got my amputation in December. I wasn't fitted for a leg until April. So those 4 months were rough. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't like walk around carrying my daughter. I had to rely on people. All I had was crutches. It became very cumbersome to go up and down the stairs. And I was just getting like kind of like annoyed by this, because like this was like the first time cancer was getting in my way. Like, I was doing chemo, but it was just for that week, and I get, back to myself after chemo was over. But when I lost my leg and I relied on people, that was the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, like, cancer has taken this away from me. I can't walk, I can't run, I can't do what I want, I can't carry my baby. Like, that was, I don't know, I felt like something was ripped away from me, which was kind of hard to take. But once April came around, I finished chemo and I was able to get into my leg. Then I had to go through physical therapy. So I had my leg in April. It wasn't until like mid July that I could actually take full steps without like a cane or crutches. So that was like my first like unassisted steps. Then I started flying from there. But getting to that point felt like forever. Like, I just felt like we were just dragged, because I was at the prosthetist office once a week because my leg was never right. I was at the physical therapy twice a week. I was just getting frustrated because I'm like, why can't I get this? I'm putting in the work, but it's a really kind of like a balance between, you could put in the work, but if your leg doesn't fit, or if your weight's, messed up, or if it's not the right alignment, like, there's only so much you can do. So it's really trusting all my doctors and putting in the work to get it to a place where I could be, unassisted. I was in remission when I had my amputation, because we did nothing had spread at that point. So from December of 2017 all the way until June 2020, I was in remission. So almost 2.5 years. And in 2020, that's the first time when I was doing my, monthly scans, that they saw some nodules in my lungs. They were very, very tiny, but we had never seen those before. And it did take an additional year. So I would say July of 2021 that they were big enough, like they had grown big enough that we could take them out to actually biopsy them to indeed confirm that it was synovial sarcoma. Big shock it was. It was kind enough to give one nodule on each lung. So I got to go on my right side and then my left side. I did what they call a wedge resection, which is like kind of like taking like a pizza slice out of your lung. Very simple, no stay at the hospital, in and out. The recovery wasn't too bad. They just said, hey, you can't run. That was my biggest thing. It was like, when can I get back to running, get back to all the things that they want to do? It takes about like 6 weeks for them to give me the okay. But those went pretty smoothly. And then another year went by and sort of like the same thing happened. Nodules popped up. We watched them. Took about a year to grow. This time 3 came. And we did one wedge resection on one side, and then my left side, the problematic side, they did what they called a segmentectomy, which is just slightly less than a lobectomy, where it's kind of like, instead of taking your whole lobe, they take like half of your lobe, because it was like right in the center. So, but all my lung surgeries went great. The segmentectomy, I was in the hospital just for a day. I had a chest tube, but those actually went well. Like, yeah, my breathing was a little bit hard to kind of get, kind of, I had to do the spirometer, kind of breathe through and get my lungs all inflated up. But I would rather do surgery than chemo or anything else. So I was pleased that we were able to take them out that way. I did my lung surgery. So after the second round, I had 3 nodules pop up. So we were able to remove them surgically, but there was one left that we wanted to radiate. And that was like at my 5-year mark. I'd never done radiation up until that point. It was just chemo and surgeries. So radiation was super simple for me. I just had three little zaps. And we thought everything was good. We thought that, since I had my nodules the first time, it waited a year, I had more nodules, and we plucked them out, we'd be good. But once we did that radiation thing, sort of like spiraled out of control. So I had the radiation done in September of 2022. By January of 2023, it had spread rapidly to my lungs, to my bones. I couldn't walk. It just spiraled out of control at that point. Like the cancer just blew up for whatever reason, and then we started going into different kinds of treatment and just a lot of more things. First, we did, I think it was 15 or 17 sessions of radiation on the hip just so I could walk because it was so painful I couldn't walk. And once we tackled that, since it had spread more rapidly to my lungs and it was like all over my body, like it was, like I said, it was in my shoulder and in my spine. Then we had to do more systematic chemo to flush it out. And I went back to my original chemo treatment. We checked in like summer of 2023. The chemo sort of worked, but I was put on a different regimen for 4 rounds, and that was sort of working. But in 2024, like I had done a year of chemo, and I was like, okay, the start of 2024, if this chemo is not working, like I need to switch. I physically like that. 2023 was a really rough year. As I've gotten older and doing chemo, it's become progressively harder in so many different aspects, like mentally, physically, and then having, like when I did chemo in 2017, my daughter was 3 months old. Now she's 7. So trying to explain to her what exactly is going on and why I'm sick and why I can't leave the bed becomes a huge thing. And I don't, not that it's my fault, but it's hard to have my daughter have to have those experiences as a kid because I wouldn't want to see my mom go through that. But I'm doing this all for her. I'm trying to be here for her, so she'll understand when she gets older. But as a child now, it's hard to explain. Like, oh, why can't mom come with us? Why can't she do this? Why is she laying in bed? So that just the whole process between then and now is just different. But so at the start of 2024, I was like, is there any way? Because like the lung stuff was still progressively getting bigger. Not like it didn't explode like it did at the end of 2022, but it wasn't stopping. So I was like, is there any way we can radiate? And that's when I radiated the lungs to see if we could get it to slow down. So since April of this year, I haven't done any other treatment. It's been 9 months according to my hair, which I closely watch. So right now, like I just had a scan a week ago and everything is still stable. So we're just going to continue to monitor every 2 or 3 months. And we're just hoping for stability. Like it's still like the stuff is still in my lungs, dead. And there's some stuff that still lights up in my bones, but they don't hurt. So as long as we keep it like that, we'll just keep on monitoring. I feel like my family's been great. My mom's a nurse. My husband, I mean, they've just all been fantastic. And in 2017, when I was first diagnosed, like there's like this sort of like veil over your eyes. You're like, okay, if I do the chemo now and the amputation, like I'll be good. Because all of the people that I've been through like cancer with, they're all like 5, 7 years cancer free. That hasn't been my story, unfortunately. So I was under like I was very positive. And I'm like, oh, you got this. Like just very optimistic. Not that I'm not now, but when it came back and then it came back again, then I had to do chemo and my body just becomes just like after time, like surgeries and radiation, like my body's tired. So in 2023, when I started doing all this chemo, I just got like so frustrated. I'm like, is this ever going to end? Like, I feel like crap. Am I really living? Like, what am I doing this for? And kind of like I said earlier, it's hard to like, you have to fill your own cup before you fill anyone else's. And like, I needed to rest. I needed to lay down. I couldn't do all the stuff that they wanted to do. But it's so hard when your daughter can't come near you because she's sick or she can't give you a hug because she's afraid or, that really takes a toll on you. And those are like formative memories that she's going to remember. Again, not my fault, but, I'm the one. I don't know. It's just a really tough landscape. And she doesn't, like, we try to talk to her about it. I think she understands, but I think she also knows the severity of it. So she tends to quiet up and change the subject when we talk about it. I don't think she can really process all those feelings quite yet. So I don't want to have those really deep conversations with her quite yet because she's only 7. But yeah, it really took a toll on my mental health. It just, I felt like I had gone through so much. I'm like, when is my break? When is it my turn to get, some good news, no chemo or no radiation. I just want to be like everyone else. Like I'm tired of like living like a double, like trying to work and then be a stage 4 cancer patient on the side is extraordinarily difficult. Like hardly any, like no one understands unless you have cancer, have a family member that has cancer. It's really hard to understand just sort of how just draining this whole thing is because you just can't live a normal life. Like my life, like not every 31-year old's going to the doctor, every 2 weeks or every month has to go for a shot or every 2 months has to wonder, oh God, like do I have to shave my head again in a couple of weeks? Do I have to do radiation? Is there a surgery looming? Like it's just all these thoughts are constantly going through my head. No one has heard of sarcoma. Unless you have it, you've never heard of it. I mean, who, foot cancer? Are you kidding me? I never would have thought in a million years. Um, so in 2017, I knew no one. The groups that were like on Facebook were very few and far between, like 100 members here, 100 members there. Instagram, empty. Like I was just like, can anybody relate? Is there anyone that has this? And so I was like, well, if I can share my story, maybe people can be like, hey, I'm not alone. Someone else has what I have. And like the sarcoma stats are scary. When you go to Google and type that in, you start freaking out pretty quick. 5 year survival rates do not look good. So when I post my story, I hope people can be like, wow, she's 7 years out. She's stage 4 cancer, but look at the life she's living. She's still living. Like, I want people to know that because that's what I thought immediately. That sentence, I'm not going to be here in a year, and that's it for me. So, I can't tell you how much it fills my heart. It may only be like 3 people over the past 7 years, but when I have someone DM me saying, thank you for sharing this, I don't feel alone. Or, hey, like my husband was diagnosed with this. Can you help? Can you share resources? I'm like, absolutely. I know what it's like to be like, does anyone understand what's going on? Can anyone help me? And I just like being that because like my family is great. I'm sure actually everyone I met that has cancer has great like support systems, but to talk to someone who is going through it is just that bond that you really can't get with anyone else. So if I can be any ray of hope or sunshine or just anything, I want to be there for them because I didn't have that. A lot of people think like stage 4 cancer, that's it, pack up your bags, let's start planning, all your, goodbyes, which is not the case. Like here I am, hair growing, I look pretty healthy, I feel good, I can still do all the same stuff that I want to do. And it's sort of like, I can't change that, right? I can't change my DNA. I can't change what's inside my body. So I have to live with the confines of what my normal is. So my normal is, yeah, I have to go to the doctor a few more times than most people. But if I get good scans, I just kind of brush my hands. I walk away from the ecology center and I start living. I go back to work. I go to my, kids, singing concerts. I do Halloween. I do Christmas. I shop. I go to the grocery store. I really focus on those mundane things in life that people probably hate, like going to the store, filling up your gas tank. I'm like, I am so thankful I get to be doing this. I'm not in the hospital. I'm not in treatment. So these little things that I get to do, like really fill me with joy. It's the oddest things. Like I said, going to the grocery store, really boring chore. But I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I get to walk around. I can actually walk around. I don't have to be. I'm not. I don't have crutches. Like there's just really just thankful for like the really small, minute things, like sitting outside with my daughter at night. Like I'm like, oh, I feel great. She feels great. We can talk. We can hug. We can be close. I don't have to worry about getting sick. So it's really just those little things in life that I really try to find all the joy in. Get lumps and bumps checked for sure. No matter if you think it's nothing or something, always get it checked. And also be your own advocate because for 6 years, I was going to different podiatrists and they were saying, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then finally, once I got my diagnosis, once I got that, now any sort of ping or pang, I make sure I get it checked. Not that it has to be as extreme as cancer to, get you to like worry about your health, but you only have one body, so you really have to treat it with as much respect as you can. So if something feels off, you go to the doctor. I don't care how many times they tell you you're young, you're fine, it looks okay. Keep on pressing until you get the answer. Like, don't let them just shoo you away. I was shooed away for years without people taking me seriously, until it became serious. Now everyone takes me way too seriously when I go in for anything. But definitely that. And then also another one, if I could have two, is that when I was finally, upgraded to stage 4 cancer, it's just really finding like the joy in little things, that stage 4 cancer is not a death sentence. You can still live a happy, full life. And this, I don't know if this is morbid or not, but like you always want to live until like the next, new treatment comes out. So, you're living, like, technology is always changing and rapidly increasing. So there really could be a cure right down the road. It really could just be right around the corner. Like, back in 2017, I wasn't eligible for any trials. Now I'm eligible for three. So, I mean, it's really just, kind of just staying with it until, the next thing comes around.